everyone, and thanks for your time. I am Vijayalayan. I am from MathWorks. I head the application engineering team for automotive and control design. And what we will be seeing is where our previous speaker, Mr. Prashant sir, finished with something. How do we move from ideas to reality? I think I took that, and that is the title of this session, where I would be talking mainly from how can you quickly move from ideas to reality by embracing model-based design. The thing is, the focus of today will be about how quickly we can move from ideas to reality, how most of the startups have embraced model-based design to be successful into it. Uh, I will not be able to do the 1 hour here. I have a hard stop, so I will be trying to do it in 45 minutes. Before I start, I thought I will start with this video, which will set the context for you. A story from Southern Launch in Australia. It's similar to Agnikul Cosmos you saw in the exhibition booth. Their main focus is they wanted to be successful in enabling a safe launch services for space startups actually. The main question is how quickly they can come up with a launch vehicles and also take up the services for launching the satellites onto the space, onto low Earth orbits. Their thing is mainly smaller time. How quickly you can hit the market, and how can you be successful into it. When you are getting into a space launch service, the main question is how many prototypes do I need to build? How do I also show that this concept will work to my investors and also get the confidence into it? And that is where you can see here the engineer speaks about how does they use modeling and simulation for building a virtual prototype of that launch vehicle, and then they were able to mimic all the real-time scenarios. Even before the physical prototype is built, how can you build that at your desktop, at your place itself, and get the confidence, and then go for the final launch into it. So this is where what model-based design is all about. Even before you go for your final launch or your final product, how quickly the ideas that we have in mind can be translated into a virtual prototype or a virtual design using modeling and simulations. Okay, so that is what we'll be talking about. It's not only about that space launch vehicle. The same approach that I will be covering today can be used for any kind of a smarter systems that you have developed, whether it is from automotive, commercial aircraft, health tech, or energy. The concept remains the same into it, because model is more about mathematics. It's nothing about what domain you are bringing into it. But depending on what examples you are working on it, I'll be happy to share you more what are the things that is available into it. Before I start with it, how many of you know about MATLAB or Simulink? Heard about it? Okay. This is great. And you're already using it today? Yes? No. Okay. So I'm here to say what is the value it is going to give you as a startup when you are going to develop that particular products. You might have learned it in your colleges, or you would have used it in your projects and other things into it. The next question is, can I understand a show of hands, how many of you are here from aerospace, robotics, 1, 2, healthcare, 2, automotive? So what is the remaining? Any other segments I missed it? IT. Agri. Okay. Agriculture. Smart agriculture. Okay. We'll cover that also. Okay. So in case if you are also working in any other technology segments which I have not covered, don't worry about it. When I cover it across, you will get an idea. But for examples, I have picked only very few related to robotics, space, healthcare, and autonomous vehicles into it. But if there are something very specific you need, I will share my details also. I'll be happy to share with you how we can help on that. Okay. And as I said, please feel free to interrupt, raise your hand and ask any kind of questions. We'll try to make the best use of it. Okay. So what you would like to take away today is, most of the times model-based design is like a myth where people will think it is only for large organizations. It is not true. Model-based design is for smaller teams, even for 1%, 2%. The concept is how you can make use of your models and translate your ideas, or either it is in your mind or it is in a pen and paper in a text form. How can you translate that into an executable virtual prototype? That will allow you to get a good insights of the systems you are building, early verify any kind of a design errors early itself, and then give you a confidence to your team members and also to your investors before even we build an actual prototype. So that is what we are going to look at it, how quickly the models help you to develop it. The next question is, it's not about the first prototype, right? First time we build a product, we make it quicker. But then the question is, how do we scale it up? While scaling it up, do I do it in the same way again, going from scratch? How much do I reuse the work I have done it? Sometimes people move from one organization to another organization, then the work also goes, expertise goes. So how do I handle this kind of a challenges? So that is where the reusability of the models, what we are building, will stay for decades also. How can you reuse it itself and reduce the time to the market and reduce your development cost? So this is what we will be looking at mainly, how we get started with modeling. And when I talk modeling, what do we mean by modeling? How different industries have done on that, and how you can use the models for different types of use cases. So agenda wise, I have mentioned is why first model-based design. Then we will get into some of the startup stories based on both India and global. What have they done when they were doing before adopting model-based design? What is the challenge they had to move from idea to reality, and why did they choose model-based design, and how did they apply on it? So this one, whatever I'm sharing, is based on the 10 years what we have been associated globally. MathWorks worked with different startups, close to around 8,000 startups, and based on interacting with them, how we have helped them, and also what are the lessons we have learned, both from the way of packaging our products and also providing our support into it. So what are the industry trends we are seeing right now between 2018 and 2023? You know that there is a rapid change that's happening. 5 years back, the focus was all on medical devices, software and internet, aero and auto, right? Today, the biggest trends where we are seeing more of model-based design is used is with respect to drones, electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging systems. Space segment has opened up very much, CubeSat, propulsion, and AI as a technology, not only with one verticals, across the verticals, whether it is healthcare or it is industrial automation, it has been used into it. Now, how can model-based design help in this particular segments is what we'll be looking at it. Whether you are from any segments, the questions or the challenges that is before the team is, how can I come up with a product in a very shorter time? And it's not only about delivering faster, but also if your clients are there and if the requirements are keeping changing, how do you address that and also come up with a better product into it? And while saying that it has to be quicker, but also ensuring that we are not compromising on the quality. For example, if it is aerospace or a healthcare, we need to meet the certification requirements. How quickly we will be able to comply with the certification requirements to also get a clearance for our products into it. So that is where model-based design comes into picture. What is that is basically the first one, where it's all about creating a mathematical model of a system that you're going to develop. So that can be in different domains. We'll not get into that. But the question is, when I say model, it is basically creating a replica which will help us to understand how a system behaves, how a system will work in different conditions. And if I'm developing an algorithm, today everything is basically algorithms in everything, software in everything. So when I am going to develop that, how do I ensure that the system I'm developing, system will be behaving according to the algorithm that I'm developing into it. So that is where there are two elements in model-based design. One is building a model and using the model for the right purpose. The next one is, once I build the model, will I be using it only for decision making, or will I be able to deploy it? Finally, if we are using some embedded targets or clouds, the algorithm that I have developed, can I quickly deploy it onto that targets? So that is where the question of automation comes into the picture, because we don't have enough time to again hand code, again write, debug the errors into it. Can I automate the things? What is happening manually? That is what talking about automation of the code generation and also automation of the verification. This both clubs together will help in addressing the first challenge is, how do we ensure that we handle the challenges of building costly prototypes and the time that is taken into it. So simulation, whatever we are talking about, will ensure that you don't need to build more physical prototypes. You can use that virtual prototypes and also save the times and cost involved in testing and development into it. And another thing is, what if we are finding errors when the product is launched or is about to launch? That is where the question of the cost of fixing the error very early or very late is very high into it. How can we identify the errors very early into that, and how can we fix it into it? These two are the benefits where people mainly go for adopting model-based design into it. Now this is the main questions, or whatever you can think about, what can be the two reasons if I have to think about it. These two will be the main reasons. How do I reduce the time that is involved in development and testing? How can I ensure that whatever ideas I am having is feasible and also will be workable into it? So if I have 10 ideas, I can quickly come to an idea which one will be working better for me before even realizing the physical prototype. So as I said, when I looked at the focus sectors of the Huddle event, then I thought these are the whatever circled in yellow are relevant, and I picked users stories according to it. So let me start. When I talked about model-based design itself, this is how we looked at it. It's not like just building the models and other things. So just this grid will give you an idea. The first question is, what is the product or what is the system I'm developing? Am I focusing only on the algorithm side, or I'm looking at the entire system, like an entire launch vehicle or entire medical system, a patient monitoring system, or I'm developing a drone? What portions are you trying to look at it? Based on that, the starting point will vary here. So simple way to look at is, initially we can look at algorithm, where when I say algorithm, it is only what goes in your embedded systems. It might be just a deductions, it might be some kind of alert that has to be provided into it, or it might be doing a control actions or a preventive actions. That is what we call it as an algorithm. It can be in MATLAB, it can be in Simulink. Then there is a workflow of whether you are just going to develop the algorithms in a graphical way and then see how it works, or you are also going to deploy it on a microcontroller or a GPU and other things. We look at it. Next is basically comes into the system level, where in your teams you might have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, hardware engineers, where you have a system integration team. Then separately you will have embedded team, right? So when they are trying to develop, finally we have to put everything together and then see as a system how it is going to behave. So that is where we call it as a system, means plant modeling, entire system modeling. How do we do the model of an entire system and how we can try to do that? So this doesn't mean that when you want to start, you need to look at all the stages. This will come in an incremental way into it, right? So that is what I'm going to talk about. Let's quickly get started with the first level. When I talk about algorithm, usually an algorithm is basically event driven or decisions based, or it can be mathematical based into it. Usually what we try to do is we will write this in a piece of paper or a whiteboard like this. This is how my logic is going to behave. And what it will be done is, okay, it will be residing in a static environment, paper or a PDF document into it. What we are trying to do is we can translate that in a modeling way. It's a block diagram based. In a block diagram based, you can develop models, quickly translate this, and multiple people can work on it. And that is where you will also say for this inputs how it is behaving, for different types of test data how will it behave. That is where the first stage you will start with an algorithm development into it. And this will also translate into a event driven or a flowchart based. So we have Simulink and state flow which will help you to quickly do that actually. What is the advantage? These design you can easily understand, and there is no language barrier. It doesn't talk about English, Chinese, nothing like that. Even if we show this between different teams, you will be able to understand how the system is going to behave. And it is easy to integrate with the other domain systems also, and you will be able to do that. How it has been done, this is one of the example from healthcare tech. The Satin Health Tech is part of a Derby Foundation, which is an accelerator in Bangalore. And what the founder wants to do is, how can they bring an affordable cancer screening facility to the rural healthcare into it. She has a motivation for it, and the main question is, should I be always going to a urban hospitals to get this done? How much time it is taken? So then that is where we are trying to look at it with a smartphone itself. How can you take a picture, and then how can you have an intelligent algorithm that can clearly say whether analyzing the images, it will be able to alert that particular patients whether they have there is a screening of the cancers, and early alert can be done into that actually. So this is where what they did is, they know the main question is all about okay. So this is all about how, what is the algorithm here is, okay, you are taking many images. Then how can you use deep learning to predict come up with a decision of which is cancer, where you have to categorize it as a cancer patient, or it is it's a functionally perfect and other things into it. The question here is, they used MATLAB to come up with the image processing algorithms. Wherever the images is stored, how can you collect it and quickly develop a deep learning algorithm which can help you in coming up with the right category classifications into it. So you can see here, they were able to complete the prototype in a very short time, and this is the prototype they developed. And here the advantage is, they are a part of the accelerator, and also they had the technical mentorship from MathWorks, and the team provided the right examples which were able to help them start quickly into it, of course, right? So this is currently where they stand, and now after rapid diagnosis they were able to do, they want to extend this to other screening process also into it. The other example I brought, not only from healthcare, but it is also from the drone. This is Range Aero, a Chennai-based company. The idea here is, the biggest question is all about logistics, handling, right? Today in a traffic like Bangalore or anything, right from the port to come to the ports, how quickly you can reduce the time that is needed to deliver or ship the products into it. Here the problem is, they were thinking about how to use the drones or the helicopters to use this particular, so it can be airborne vehicles that can also help in reducing the traffic and providing a quick delivery and adding a value to them. Here the thing is, they in their colleges, they know that the coaxial helicopter is the one which can give better stability, but also they wanted to simulate this kind of a scenario even before getting the funding from them. So they need to show some kind of a confidence or a technical proof of concept to the investors so that they can get a funding into it. So what is needed for them is, whenever you are modeling a helicopter, you need to make a model of the system which will have that aerodynamics into it, and how are you going to develop the controls. When you say it is autopilot, it is going to go from source to destination. How can you assure to the people that it will work without any kind of a failures? How do you simulate it for different kind of a scenarios? So that is where they use this kind of a simulations where they model the entire helicopter, the aerodynamics, and they develop the use the guidance navigation control algorithm, and they were able to perform a closed loop simulations. After developing this particular model, it is not only about the system, they were able to create this kind of a scenarios of the source and destination, importing the maps, and then how will it behave in this particular scenarios, they were able to do that actually. So this user story and also the videos are available for you. How did they do it? In this particular case, they use MATLAB for both algorithm develop, control system design, and also for their plant modeling. The 6DOF simulations, they were able to do it. Where these libraries, what you need to do is just to parameterize with your parameters what you have, and you will be able to have a quick physical prototype in it. Right, so this is more about making a models, and it will reside in your desktop. Sometimes, for some of the examples, it is not only about the models residing in your desktop, it also needs to talk to the actual hardware. If you are doing a motor control, you want to know that whether the control algorithm that I have developed will be able to have the same precision when the motor control comes into picture. So that is where you are talking about. If you make the model, same model can also be running in the real time. When we are talking about real time, you have a real time hardware in which you can make your system run at the real time, real sample time, and also ensure that there is a real time operating system allowed with that, and you can quickly do a rapid prototyping. What do I mean by rapid prototyping is you can control your actual robots or motors and then see how your controller parameters are tuning. In this particular example, what I'm talking about is again from healthcare, but this is for an interesting application because Precise is basically a precision eye surgery they wanted to do, where it is about a retinal surgery in which there is no room for error. You have to insert a needle, and that needle is precise as your hair, and we have to ensure that the doctors will be able to hold the needle at the same position for at least 10 minutes. What is the requirement there is they need a robotic assistance which will help the doctors to perform the surgery in a precise way. What is the challenge for the engineer? To have a motor control and ensure that the robotic arm is very precise. The controller you are defining is very precise. It's stable. So you have to mimic the doctor's nervous movements also, and you also ensure that the controller that you are developing, whatever disturbance comes, it will be able to keep the needle in that right purpose. So for this, what they have to do is they have to do two things. First, they have to come up, this is the idea to reality is quickly they made the model, but they also need to show the hardware testing or a prototype to the customers. So what they did is they used the speed goat, which is a real-time hardware. Whatever model you have done, you can quickly run it in that speed goat hardware, and you will be able to control the actual motors. And then what you mean by prototyping is you can change the parameters and then come to a good conclusion. What is the best performance I can get for it? This is again what they showed it to the doctor's team before even getting for a clinical trial. They need to do it, and that is what you can see here, how quickly they were able to develop the model, move it to the real time, and then get the clearance for it. Once this is done, now they go into the actual collecting the data with the patients, and they were able to perform it for the real-time productions, going for certifications into it. So this particular approach, what we call it as, anytime you have a system that has to be done, whether it is a multi-domain system, we can model the systems using physical modeling or a data-driven modeling or a first principles. Lot of libraries are available into it. Using that, you can quickly make a model and then test that modeling results with your actual results. That gives you a confidence. Does this particular model behave the similar way what I am developing the system? That is how most of the places where we get started with a model-based design into it. Okay? And the last one is, you developed everything, it's prototype, but it is not only about prototyping. In automotive now it is also about production, right? Wherever we have to go from prototype to production, How many of you have heard about Altigreen? Okay, Altigreen is a new startup, and their focus was to come up with a EV three-wheeler, and that product name is Neve, and recently they launched it. The questions here is, in an electric vehicle, when you are going to go for a three-wheelers, it is also about what is the range they can get for it, right? It's all about the livelihood of the people who are going to drive this vehicle. The question is, they cannot keep on charging and waste the time into it. So the USP for them is to come up with a product which will have a maximum range and also have a quick charging. Even if it is charging, it should be not more than 15 minutes. So this is where you can see here, they use Simulink as a platform for modeling the entire vehicle. What are the different components of the vehicle? What is the driving cycle? They use Simulink, and they also used it to develop the battery management system and the power electronics that is getting into it. What is the advantage here is, even before your physical components are present, even if before you know what is the stage of the battery, what should be my battery prognostic algorithm, you can do all these maths, numerical algorithms into the MATLAB Simulink, and then you will be able to quickly get the confidence. And what they did is they were able to develop this entire product within a year's time into it. So that is what you can see here. The biggest biggest advantage he's talking about is an embedded coder, where you develop the algorithm and in a click of a button you can get a C or a C++ code. So the amount of time that is taken for generating the code is also reduced in this particular cases. Any questions or any different sorry, any questions or any different topics? Is it relevant whatever I am talking? Yes.
Sir, we would like to know more about your startup specific licensing terms.
Sure, I'm coming to that, yeah. Any other questions on that? Or? Definitely I'll address it in 5 minutes. Okay. So this is also one, quickly I'm going through, I'll not go in details, but the idea is how quickly different places we talked about control design, control deployment into it. Also, when you are having, let's say, CAD models, different type of multi-domain models into it, you will be able to import it and integrate it and perform this. This is also one example from Virgin Orbit, where they were able to simulate their launcher stage separations into it, which is a mechanical or a multi-body dynamics problem. How they were able to do it, you can look at it actually. So what I'll do is, quickly to get started, this is the final story. We saw everything in single stages of model-based design, right? But here, one of the example you can say here is, Voyage is a California-based startup. Their main goal is to deliver the promise of self-driving cars. And before we debate whether autonomous driving will work or not, their use cases was how they wanted to target the retirement communities, because it's very safer, and there they were able to target the retirement communities. And the need was, the elderly people need support to have a vehicles pick up from their houses and drop at their respective facilities. Every time they will not be able to call the drivers and other things. So that is where they will able to look at it. And retirement communities had all the infrastructure in place. There was a speed limit. There was a drawn lanes, everything into it. So it will work for them. Self-driving cars is a reality there into it. The biggest question is, whenever we are going to do this, the question before the startups is, should I be doing everything from scratch, or sorry, so the next question is, how much time do I have? Do I need to build from scratch, or I can use off-the-shelf components that are available into it? So for in this case, it's not just about MathWorks, it's also about other legacy they have already built in. How do I bring it into it? right? So here the question is all about whatever work they had, they already had the AI model with them in a open source environment. Here they were able to bring it into MATLAB because MATLAB can talk to Python. You can bring the Python models into MATLAB and then integrate with the controls and the vehicle dynamics and the environment model. They were able to develop it. What they were trying to do it is they were trying to use these reference examples that are available as a part of the shipping products, and then they use these models to create the scenarios. One of the thing is what are the failure scenarios that your intelligent algorithm needs to take a decisions. How do you simulate it? That is what they were trying to do that. And after you develop the algorithm, how can you deploy it with the automatic code generation onto the ROS node that's what we're doing. So here, this is an idea what they had and how they were able to move from that idea to the deployment in 3 months is what we are trying to look at. Two things they did is bring all the work they have done it in different environment into Simulink, integrate it, and then they focused on using the models for simulating the different scenarios. Last thing is quickly move from model to the code with a deployment into it. So all these 3 stages are available and supported, and if you have more questions, we'll be happy to support you on that. So whatever I covered is basically you have different ways of modeling. I said model. How do you make a model? You can make a models using your equations. You can make the model using the physical models with domain specific libraries. And then if you are making something like a logics, different toolboxes are available into it, right? And the main goal is to have a single environment, even if you are developing it in different environment, whether it's SolidWorks, ANSYS, with Simulink as a platform will allow you to bring it together and integrate with your system. You are not starting from scratch into it, okay? So this brings to the end where the question of what is the value of using model-based design to move from ideas to reality, and what are the things that are available. Now the question you asked is, how do I get started? So this is where, as a startup and accelerator, we have a special program for you. In the first year, if you are associated with any MathWorks supported accelerators, in this particular case, Kerala Startup Mission, Maker Village, anywhere in Bangalore or all over India, we have a lot of accelerators that are supported by it. If you are a part of it, you get 1 year free access to the licenses for 10 users. When I say free license, it doesn't mean that it will have a limited capabilities. Same capability that tools, same features that commercial users will be having, you will also be able to have it. And we will be also getting supporting with a technical mentorship. If your problem statement aligns with the values that we are able to do it, we can also leverage our technical supports and they will also help you make successful into it. Once you are moving out of the accelerator and you get into the startup program, you will also have a discounted startup suites, which is a very less price for both MATLAB suite and the Simulink suite. And that will be eligible for 2 to 5 years as a startup program. Then people graduate into a full commercial into it. This is what the journey, whether Aethers or Teslas, they have followed when they were in initially incubators, and then they moved to startups, and then they are a full-fledged company into it. So this is what I mentioned is, if you are part of startup, we have this MATLAB suite and a Simulink suite that will depends on what systems that you are designing. Accordingly, we will also help you to evaluate what you need actually. If you are only using base MATLAB, then you are okay with only MATLAB suite for startups into it. The other question is, it's also not about discounted price licensing into it. As I said, I am from the application engineering team. We have worked closely with all the startups and accelerators team. Some of the success stories that you have seen is also where our team has closely worked with them, understand what is the problem statement, and then try to provide you with some kind of a reference applications. which can be a very good starting point for you and you can get started into it. Also, there are close to 15, 16 on ramps available, which are 2 hours videos, which will tutorials, which also will help you to ramp up in that particular domain into it. So these all will be briefed up when you are part of the accelerator support program into it. The other question will be, when you have availed this technical marketing opportunities, that we also have a lot of forums like roundtables, MATLAB Expos and Max, where you can showcase your examples that you have developed with MATLAB. So whatever you saw, the Satin Health Tech range arrow, they were able to present it in our large marketing events and also part of our user stories. So the reach wise, you'll also have an increased coverage into it. So that is also one thing which will be happy, which I can say it's not only about licensing, it's also about what you can benefit after you use the license for developing your products. The team will be happy to help you in that actually. So this is, the links will be available. I'll share the slides with you. You can go to the links and you'll be also able to get this startup video blogs and other things. And again, beyond MathWorks, it's also about how do you, some of our customers, we have published the story in your story. And this is how the increased visibility and coverage comes into the picture. So last but not the least, the question here is, first, we wanted to make you aware what kind of licenses are available for you. One is licenses, but the main question is, how can you make effective use of the tools to go quickly from your ideas to reality? That's what we talked about, model-based design. And there, in case you need help, you can reach out to any one of us and we'll be happy to help. The help when I mean is, there is a lot more examples already available, lot more technical articles available into it. This can act as a quick launch pad for you and you can reduce the time that is needed for development and testing for you. This, if you are interested, whatever I have covered is from a white paper, MBD for startups. So if you click on that QR code, you will get access to this white paper, which will also explain whatever I have covered today, what is the benefit, what are the different examples available, how can you reach out to MathWorks, you will be able to get it across. Okay, few things that will be helpful is, this is my email ID and my colleague Manup is also there. You can reach out to us anytime, where if you have a problem statement that you would like to discuss with us, and if you would like to evaluate few of the technologies, we'll be happy to discuss into it. Okay? So, I know I was rushing across, but any questions? So, okay, I know I was rushing also, and then our goal was to quickly introduce you to the model-based design concept, how it can help you in moving from ideas to reality, and we showed you some of the examples. If it is not in your particular domain, you know whom to reach out. Please drop a mail. We'll be happy to support you with that. And also, regarding your product access and licensing, please feel free to reach us. We'll be happy to do that. With that, I thank the KSM team for providing us an opportunity. And thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you.